If you rely on motivation to perform, your performance is already unstable. Motivation feels powerful. It feels like ignition, but ignition is not propulsion. It is a spark, and sparks do not survive compression. When margin becomes thin, volatility is punished. And motivation is volatility disguised as energy. It rises unpredictably, it disappears without negotiation. It depends on sleep, mood, comparison, feedback, identity. You do not command it, you experience it, which means your execution fluctuates with your internal state. In wide margin systems, this is tolerated. You can disappear for a day and recover later. You can rely on bursts. Slack absorbs instability. But when slack disappears, fluctuation becomes liability. A state requires emotion, a structure requires compliance. A state asks, do I feel capable today? A structure asks, what is scheduled? States negotiate, structures execute. Most people misdiagnose their inconsistency as weakness. It is not weakness, it is variance. You embedded variability into your performance architecture. You built execution around how you feel, which means you built instability into your foundation. Under pressure, foundations are exposed. An exposure feels like inadequacy. It is not inadequacy, it is unregulated variance. Imagine your performance as a signal plotted across time, not effort, not intention, actual output. On days when motivation is high, the signal spikes. You work longer, you feel sharp, you move fast, the graph rises. On days when motivation drops, the signal falls. You delay, you hesitate, you reduce intensity, the graph dips. This creates oscillation, high amplitude, low amplitude. Now zoom out. In a low pressure system, the average still passes the threshold. The peaks compensate for the troughs. But in a compressed system, there is a minimum acceptable band, not average performance, minimum stability. If your signal dips below that band, even briefly, consequences appear. Missed deadlines, lost ranking, lost trust, lost position. It does not matter how high your peaks were. Thin margins punish troughs. Consider a student preparing for a competitive exam. On high motivation days, they study 6 hours, focused, intense, productive. On low motivation days, they study 1 hour, distracted, fragmented. The weekly average looks acceptable, but exams are not graded on weekly average motivation. They are graded on consistency under pressure. On the day motivation dips, performance dips, under compression, that dip determines ranking, not the peak. Motivation based performance creates large amplitude swings. Structure compresses amplitude, not by making peaks higher, but by preventing troughs from collapsing. High performers are not always at peak, they are rarely at trough. To compress oscillation, you must remove decision variance. Variance enters through three doors: time, task, initiation. If time fluctuates, activation fluctuates. If task clarity fluctuates, resistance increases. If initiation is undefined, negotiation begins. So you lock them. Time is fixed. Task is predefined before the session begins. Initiation ritual is standardized, not because routine is motivational, because predictability reduces amplitude. Then you install containment, a stopping boundary, a defined work window, a clear completion rule. Containment prevents emotional spillover. Finally, you install correction, weekly structural review, not to judge yourself, to detect variance early. Structure is not about intensity, it is about narrowing deviation. Once deviation narrows, identity stabilizes. Once identity stabilizes, pressure becomes manageable. You do not eliminate fluctuation, you limit its amplitude, and limited amplitude survives compression. You do not rise to motivation, you fall to structure. States collapse, structures endure.